accept them and place them on file.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Communications, Jessica, do we have anything?
Not unless you have questions.
Okay.
I have just a couple announcements, I guess. Just to confirm, we've finalized the values from the 2024 evaluation. We submitted our values to the state. It's called the MS1 form. I think it was November 1st or 2nd, whatever that Friday was. So we're locked out of our database for 2024. Any changes we're making at this point is going into our 2025 database. As far as I'm aware, we don't have a tax rate yet.
No, and just as a follow-up to that, we did submit a revised MS1, which you're aware because you had to sign it. We discovered a couple of parcels that had been missed, and we also discovered that the school board hadn't submitted their documents to the department yet, so they weren't able to set a tax rate. So we corrected that rather than doing a supplemental warrant. And we provided that to the department on the 20th, and it was accepted. So from our end, the MS1 is complete as it should be.
Okay, thank you.
We will be asking you to come into the office at some point to sign the warrant when it's prepared. Obviously, we need a tax rate first. Once we get a tax rate, the tax collector's office will start putting the bills together. Just for the public, common question we're getting right now, we're not allowed to accept abatement applications until the bills have been sent. So we're just in a holding pattern for now. If you're anticipating submitting an application for an abatement, we just have to hold off till we get the tax rate, wait till the bills have gone out, and then we can accept those. We have done some inspections. If you had a hearing with Vision and didn't get a call from our office, you think there's some sort of data correction on your property, give us a call. We can still come out and do an inspection anytime. Like I said, the changes we're making are for 2025. But if a correction is warranted, it had been there all year the certain way, and we come out this month and we see that the only way we can change your 2024 value is through an abatement application. So even if it's just a data correction, you could still have us come out and look at it, and we'll tell you which portions of the application you have to fill out for that. But that is the process to use if you have a disagreement with your value at this point. So.
Okay.
And another follow-up to that is because the tax bills are being mailed late, they're going to be due after January 1st. That pushes out the deadlines for a local abatement and an appeal of a local denial. So the current, the date by statute is March 1st. If the bills go out and are due after January 1st, it extends that March 1st deadline out too. So if the bills are due January 10th, the deadline to get an abatement into the office will be March 10th. Okay. And the deadline at BTLA or Superior Court will be September 10th, if the local is denied and they want to appeal that. So we don't know what that date is yet. Well, as soon as the tax bills are mailed, the last bill that's mailed, it takes them several days to get them in the mail. The date the last bill is mailed, the due date can't be earlier than 30 days from then. And then I believe it's 60 days from that due date is when the deadline is for local abatement. So
Okay.
we'll put that on our website once we know what that date is. And we'll also have that information at our counter. But once that date is established, it's still going to be a hard and fast drop dead date. That March 1st date, normally if you come in with an abatement, hand deliver it to the assessors on March 2nd, it's denied and there's no recourse. So whatever that new date is, it'll be the same thing. It's got to be in the office by that date or it's not valid.
In the next couple weeks, we're hoping to get some updated information on our website, pull down the old preliminary PDFs that we had posted, get an Excel spreadsheet up there that is sorted by style of home so that people can do their research easier. If they're looking for an abatement, they can go right to the capes and say, okay, these are the capes that sold. Let me find the one on my street, so they can do better, easier research. the one we have now isn't sorted by style, so it's sorted by street, but not by style, so we'll get that up too.
Okay. Any questions?
All good.
Jane? Okay. Thank you both. Next item, old business. We don't have anything that I know of. New business. Jessica, I think there's one abatement.
Yeah, we have an abatement request coming from the tax collector's office for some uncollectible taxes on a city-owned parcel. In the packet, you can see this is a parcel, it's that dirt parking lot that's next to the airport where people pull in to watch the planes take off. So there's some background here. It was leased at one point. That's done. Taxes had been abated 19, 20, and 21 already. With Bob's assistance, we've changed the land use code this fall. So for 2024, it is a city-owned property, so it won't generate a tax bill. So this problem won't keep coming up 2024 and forward. But they still have the outstanding 2022 and 2023 taxes that I guess go nowhere to a person or a group that doesn't exist or have a mailbox. I don't know, the details are in the packet here, but they're asking to clear out their books for these uncollectible taxes for 2022 and 2023 on this parcel.
Any questions for Jessica?
Was this it was leased by like New England Mutual or something? Or did I see that somewhere?
Yeah, it was before my time, so I'm not
Yeah, it was-
too familiar with it.
It was leased to an office user in the neighborhood.
Oh, they
for
must
a
have
lot of
used it
years.
for parking or
Oh,
something.
Right, used it
parking,
for parking, and if it's leased by a taxable entity, it's subject to property taxes. And when that
tenant.
lease expired or was terminated, initially, I don't believe we were properly notified in
Right.
the office.
And they kept mailing the bills to this address, they kept coming back.
Yeah, and then, although they took care of those 3 years, the code wasn't changed in the assessing camera system so that it went to non-taxable, and it generated a couple more years of tax bills before it was caught.
All right, can I get a motion to approve the abatement for the years 2022 and 2023 for account 47474, the lot on Sharon Avenue?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Anything else, Jessica?
That's all I have.
Okay. Next item is public comment. I believe there's someone in the audience that wants to talk. Could you sit at the desk? There's a microphone there, and just state your name and address, please.
Good morning. My name is Peggy Anderson, and I live at 75 Walden Pond Drive. And I did bring a poster. I don't know if you all can read it from there. But it is the reason why I'm here. I live at 75 Walden Pond Drive, which is a condominium community. And the reason why I'm here is that there is a systemic problem with the formula that's being used for this particular condo community, because we have 3 styles of units, and the styles are important, and Jessica just mentioned that. So we have 3 styles of units. There are 1-story units that are 1706 square feet, and there are 2-story units that are 1788 and 1960 square feet. So I live in the larger 1960 square foot unit. And the problem is that they are all assessed together. That's the first problem. They're all assessed together. So there's not an apples to apples comparison between the 1 stories and the 2 stories. But the problem is in the software and the way the formula is written. So, I've tried to talk to Vision about it, and I keep getting told, well, just fill out an abatement form. Just fill out an abatement request, and that's fine, and I'll do that. But there are 26 individuals like me who live in this larger style unit, and we are all assessed much too high based on what the units actually sell for. So, there's a reason for it, and I gave you guys a pretty long analysis, and I hope that you had time to read it. But there are 3 specific reasons for why this has turned out the way it has, and I can go into it, but I only have 5 minutes. So what I wanted to do is show you with my chart what the real-life impact of this overassessment, which has is a cumulative thing that goes back, it's not 2024, it goes back to 2022 and 2018. So that's why it has to be fixed in the computer. But, so here are my sales, and I think I'll stand up and show it to you.
Oh, yeah.
Can you just,
Is that okay?
yeah.
If I just kind of show it to you this way? There are 2 sales in my neighborhood, and the first one that I want to show you is a 1-story that's 1,700 square feet. And it sold in January for $465,000. And then a 2-story, much larger, 250 square feet larger unit sold for $460,000. So basically they sold for the same amount. And they were both beautiful, updated, really nice units. And as you can see by the assessment on the 1-story is $441,200. And the assessment on the 2-story that sold for the exact same amount is $521,700. So this, what this shows you is that the extra square footage does not result in a higher sales price, but the extra square footage does result in a massively higher assessment. So the difference is $80,000. And in real life, this person right here will pay $7,056 in annual sales tax. And that's if it is,
Property
if it
tax.
comes in.
Property tax.
Property taxes, I'm sorry. I'm a little nervous.
No,
but
don't worry.
So if it comes in at this .016 per thousand, which is what, we have been told to expect, sort of, this person will pay $7,056 in annual property taxes. And this person, who bought their home for slightly less, is going to pay $8,336 in annual property taxes. So that is not fair, and that's not accurate, and it's not equitable. So I would ask you guys to look at that, because again, it can't, you want to see it again?
No.
Okay.
Let you finish.
Yeah, and so here I am. I've showed you my example. So again, one sale doesn't tell the whole story, right? You can say, well, this is just one. But this was a swanky, beautiful one. And we were lucky we had a second one that was the larger unit that sold. And it sold for $430,000. So even less. And because it wasn't as updated, it was kind of slightly updated. So it sold for $430,000. It's assessed at $500,000, at $500,000.
And that's for a 1960
Right,
square foot property?
right. This is all focused on the 1960 square feet units. Because basically what we have here is an imbalance, and I'm going to run out of time. So before I run out of time, I just want to tell you there are 3 reasons for the imbalance, and I have explained it to you in my documentation. I can do it if you want now, but what I would really ask you to do is just please help correct this mistake, because it is not going to get better with us just going and filling out the form and, 8 of us or whatever. There's 26 people who are affected by this. And I gave you the list of all of us, and you can see how high the assessments are. They're off the chart.
Is this an over 55 community?
No, it's not. But anyway, so I'm just asking you guys to please help me to correct this mistake, because if we don't correct it, it's going to happen again in 2026, because it's cumulative. And I don't want to keep talking about this. I've been talking about this nonstop for 2.5 months, and it has to be fixed in the computer. It can't be fixed with me and 5 of my neighbors coming over and saying, I need an abatement. Because it's complicated. It's really complicated. And it's really just a math problem. And if you guys want me to explain it, I will, but I think Jess is probably going to tell me that my time's up. So if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
You're saying that the one-story units sell for more even though they're smaller in square footage?
Yes, I would say yes. And if you look at my paperwork that I gave you guys, it's complicated because the one-story units have been updated, I would say. They have all been updated with beautiful hardwood floors and new kitchens, new baths, so they are selling for more. And the ones that I live in are 2 stories, and they're a little bit more outdated, so they're selling for less. And that's just a fact. It doesn't make sense, logically, you would think that the ones that are larger are going to sell for more. But it's actually inverted, and it has been for the last couple of assessments. So it's not just a 2024 problem. It's a 2022 problem, it's a 2018 problem, but because the numbers have gotten so big, when I bought my unit, it was assessed at $228. Then that was 3 years ago, $228. It is now assessed at $493,500, which is a 113% increase in 3 years, because it's cumulative. So they all went up $60,000 in 2022. 60%, I'm sorry. Our whole neighborhood, clumped together, went up 60% in 2022. And I knew my assessment was wrong in 2022, but my dad had dementia, and I came up here to help him. His name is Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Hogan, and he passed away in 2023, in March of 2023. My dad passed away. So when I got the assessment in 2024, 2.5 months ago, I was like, whoa, now this is really out of whack. So because you're starting with a number that's too big, and you're putting a 60% increase on it, and then 2 years later, you're putting a 33% increase on it. So the bubble's just getting bigger. That $80,000 is going to be $100,000 next year if you don't reset them back to where they belong. My unit should be assessed at $430. It's assessed at $493,500.
And it's a 1960 square
Right.
foot.
It's $65,000 higher than it should be. Because mine's not swanky like this one. This example I'm giving you was the highest ever to sell for the 2-story units.
This may be an unfair question, but is this an issue that's unique to Walden Pond Drive, or are there similar discrepancies between 1-story and 2-story condominiums citywide or in other
I have
towns?
no idea. I cannot answer that question. I can only tell you what I have found with my assessment, which I knew was out of whack when I got it, and then I looked and saw that every single one of my neighbors who has this type of unit, theirs is out of whack too. So all of these, none of these are less than $488,000 for a house that should sell for $430. And because the problem is that the code in the computer is the same for all 3 units. It's 55T is the style code, and Jess mentioned a style code earlier. So the style code needs to be differentiated further so that you can do an apples-to-apples comparison.
Okay, so 55T, but then the next differentiator would be the amount of square footage that those 3 units
Right.
have. And then the next differentiator would be, is it improved or unimproved? Meaning, like, is it original
Right,
construction?
swanky or not swanky.
Swanky or not swanky?
Yeah.
The technical terms, I think.
Right.
Yeah. So are
But
those?
really, right, here's what's confusing, is that, so the 2-story units, the small one and the big one, sell for the same price. So the square footage, again, has no impact, because they're a slightly different style. So the smaller 2-story is going to sell for, it is a different design. It's a more open design. And so the larger one is a slightly less popular design, let's say. So even though it's 200 square footage more, it sells for the same price. So, I think that what would help, I don't know, is if you just do a reset, relook at all of these 26 units and reset them to where they should be. Because you're starting with a number that's too big, and it grows bigger as exponentially bigger. So if you go back and set it down to a correct rate, get it to the correct number so that in 2026, when you add, let's say, 25% to it, you're at the correct number. Because that's what our problem is. Our problem is we're starting from the wrong number, a number that's too high, and then you multiply it and it gets higher and higher and higher. And the bubble grows bigger and bigger and bigger.
We had a similar problem like this on Hollis Crossing 30 years ago, where the company doing the reval at that time had just like picked one number for a style and then just applied it to all of them, not realizing that there were different ones in that group. And then we had to go back and fix it later on. I mean, where do we stand?
Those are probably garden style versus townhouse style.
No.
Because the two that are over there are, there's a townhouse style, then there's the ones that have an elevator or stairwell, that's a single floor living.
Yeah.
So
These
we
are-
have that across the city. Garden style is a different style.
No,
than-
that wasn't the case. It was a townhouse. The end units, interior units
Okay. Right.
assessed differently. And I was put on the front page of the National Telegraph because of it. So,
Yeah, they may have sold differently in the past.
If I could. So I've had numerous discussions with Ms. Anderson,
Yeah.
and to be honest, we're on the same page. The issue is that this came up too late to correct for the 24 tax bills. You know, the hearings were kind of late, and then this process was a bit late. So this is on my list of things to address in combination with any abatements we come in. And it's not a matter of changing that 55T, because that's townhouse, and we're not going to change that. But you can further put multiple styles within a complex. It's a little more difficult in our current CAMA system. In the one we're going to go to, Vision, it's much easier. But you can actually have styles within a development, not just that general condo code. And if you set it up with a different style, it makes it easier to analyze the sales versus the assessments. So, I mean, the evidence supports what's being said today, but we'll have to track what happens going forward. You know, maybe the difference isn't as big, or maybe it gets bigger, but if we code that separately, we can analyze that.
right. And I see that's the only thing we can handle right here is just that it's assessed correctly. And then what the sales happen, well, that's.
The other interesting issue with this is that there have been a couple of those larger unit sales after April 1st of '24, and because there were no sales of this size unit between April 1st of '23 and April 1st of '24, which is the sales period that the reval company was contracted to look at, even though they may have agreed at the hearings that this seemed to indicate what was being argued, they can't expand that sales period to do an analysis for one property type or one condo development and not do it for the whole city. And you just can't do that. So we're going to take care of this going forward.
So it'll be corrected for 25 potentially, but for 24, everyone, affected people will have to file abatement?
We'll have to file an abatement. And the way that'll work is the ones that file an abatement, we're going to take a look at. If an adjustment is warranted, we're going to make it. And if we decide an adjustment has to be made on all 26 going forward, we'll do that, but they're not going to get a refund for 24 unless they file an abatement, which I would imagine Ms. Anderson is going to work on.
You got it.
with
Huh?
neighbors.
So you guys will see me again.
Yeah.
Is that how the abatement
So,
works?
if we get 26 abatements and they're all warranted, you're going to see them.
And then
But if only
does she
5
get
people file.
Do you have a contract, you get a third of anything you save, like some of
No.
these other guys do? No?
No, and I was just really worried about, I knew that mine was wrong. And I was like, this is not right. We did go talk to the people at Vision, but again, they are looking at a code in the computer and they said, hey, too bad for you. A one-story sold for $500. So yours could easily sell for $493, $500, but the data shows that it can't. And as I said, I had another one that's sold for $430. That is more comparable to mine because mine's not swanky. So I feel like mine should be $430, and, Mr. Gagne has had a lot of patience in listening to me tell this long, sad story, but I don't want to tell the story anymore, and nobody in my family wants to listen to it either. So,
Mr. Gagnon gets paid to do that.
yeah, my family members don't get paid to do it, so their eyes are starting to glaze over, and mine are too, because I've been working on this it took me 2 months to figure this out,
Yeah.
because it's not simple. And, I feel like my neighbors know theirs are not right, but they don't have 2 months to sit here and calculate all this stuff. So when they come before you, I hope that everybody understands the situation, that it's real, and that, I don't want to pay $1,300 more than somebody else in my neighborhood. It's not right, when theirs are actually selling for more than mine is going to sell. So I think that the city I would assume and I believe that the city wants to get this right. And so I bring it to you guys, and I hope that you will help make this right so that you don't have to hear from me again.
It sounds like it's going to be taken care of, so.
Yeah, so thank you very much for your time this morning, I really appreciate it.
And kudos to you for taking on the analysis.
Yeah.
Thanks, it's been driving me crazy, because I knew there was something wrong. And I'm like, how, but there's an explanation for it, and you can read it. There's 3 things that happened, and, so it took me a long time, and I appreciate you guys understanding what the 3 factors were, and they're all in my assessment.
All right.
Did your
Thank you.
dad coach pole vaulting?
He
at
sure
Bishop
did.
Garden?
He sure did.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah, and my brother went to Bishop Garden, my 2
Yeah,
brothers
he
went to
was-
BG.
I was between your 2 brothers.
Yes, between Dan and Stephen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dan was a year older.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And was your dad in the Air Force as well?
No, well, he was, but he never admitted to it. Yeah, he was a Russian linguist in the
Oh, wow.
Aleutian Islands.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, my dad was in the Air Force, as you know.
I did not know your dad was in the Air Force when he was coaching then.
He had retired
Oh,
at that
he
point.
retired,
He retired
okay.
from the Air Force, and then he volunteered as the pole vault coach
Right.
at Nashua High School for 20 years.
Oh, in Nashua High, probably after.
And at BG, yeah. He
Okay.
was also at BG when my brother was there, and he was a pole vaulter.
Yeah, yeah.
And then he went to Nashua High, and he got some state champions.
Oh, good.
Yeah, girls and boys, and
Very
he was
cool.
very proud of that.
Yeah.
So, he was a great guy, and we
He
miss him.
was a good guy.
Yeah.
I liked him.
All right, thank you guys very much for all
Thank
the
you.
attention.
Thank you.
We have more.
Lori Ortolano, 41 Berkeley Street. I'll be brief. I'm glad I came because I didn't realize that there's an extension put on the March 1st date, which makes a lot of sense, and people will be confused by that. So putting that up on the website would be ideal. I'm hearing that it'll take another week to get the bills out, so I'm expecting that they'll go out by maybe the 12th or 13th. And I'm concerned about that because putting out bills during the holiday season when the post office is doing packages and cards could mean that property owners actually don't get those bills for a week or 10 days, literally. So, I'm disappointed that we went ahead and did this, accepted this reevaluation and the numbers, given the problems on how people were notified, and I think there were questions about all the permits being captured. I know I recognize some of the permits were not captured on properties that had updates. And if I had realized we were doing this reval, it went over my head. I totally missed it. And put together the fact that the 4 staff members walked out very abruptly in, I don't remember if it was March or April, sort of in the heat of providing services and data for Vision, I would have said, oh, let's stop, or, let's postpone 1 year. I wish we had, because I think this is going to be a real punch in the face to people at Christmas time. A lot of people like to pay their tax bill before January 1st because they use it on their taxes as part of a write-off. And they're going to be in need of having themselves together to do that at the Christmas holiday within a matter of days to probably make that happen. And so I don't really like the way this went down. I'm wondering, it wasn't mentioned today, are the property record cards being compiled now by IT such that the new 2024 cards will be up online? Do we know when those will be available?
He's actively doing it this week. He started it last week, glitch in the system, so Tuesday he ran it all day, another glitch, so I think he's doing it in smaller batches this week, but it
Okay.
should be up this week.
the
The
pe-
Web Pro PRC card should be up.
Yeah, okay. It usually takes, it's a really huge project, and it's very data intensive to run the 30,000 property cards. It takes him like a week, I thought. And if he's having glitches, obviously it's more. So that's great, because at least the cards will be online, and people, they don't need their tax bill to prepare an abatement or understand if they feel they want to do an abatement. So they could use that data as it comes out, hopefully in the next week. One of the things this lady who just spoke about, I listened to, and I thought she did a great job with her presentation, and I'm really very happy that you folks were so polite and receptive to her issues and what she pointed out, because I think there's a valid complaint over there. I read it in the board packet, and I saw her the last time she came here and presented. I happened to be at that meeting. In the past, when there have been neighborhoods where there are issues, and I can think of when I was involved with the Board of Assessors, one of the mobile home parks had a problem with two-story units. And so the assessor at that time in Nashua, without the individuals, all of them filing abatements, just corrected the neighborhood. We have done that in the past. If there's a neighborhood problem, I mean, the job, I think, of the assessing office is to fairly assess properties. If you find there's a coding issue, even if it's not coding, there's just a practical issue of the sales data and it's matched to the assessment. That's what's really happening here. We can talk 55T, we can talk square footage, we can talk condition, but the sales data isn't matching what it shows. So the goal is to align the sales data with the assessment. So if there is that disparity in the neighborhood, I would hope that the assessing office would correct the neighborhood, because that's fair. And our goal is to always be fair about our assessments, and that's what we've done in the past. When we hit mobile home park neighborhoods where the assessments were unfair, we did not make. People called me in 2021 concerned about their mobile home park assessments. I went and looked at them, and I said, yeah. The people who contacted me, I said, definitely abate these, they're wrong. But there were 6 or 7 others in there that were wrong, that didn't abate. And Mike Mandile at the time came in and presented to the board. We fixed them all. We took care of them all, because that's what's fair. So I hope you would do that. I would address the whole neighborhood off of one, or address the whole neighborhood off of hers, and not say 26 people file your abatements because we got to do them that way to fix them. I don't know if that's really required. If you see a mistake, I'm all for correcting it. And other than that, I think I'm pretty good. So have a great holiday.
Thank you, you too.
And just keep in mind, it goes both ways too, because we, one time, back like 30 years ago, we did a spot assessment down on Spitbrook Road when Pheasant Lane was being built. All the properties started increasing in value, and we did a spot assessment to go up on their valuations. So we have the right to do that as well. I'm just saying that
You do.
We totally agree. We're on the exact same page. It's all about fairness.
It is all about fairness, and you're right. If you have a category of properties, commercial, whatever, like Spitbrook Road, and all of a sudden they're really climbing, you can grab that whole group and correct them to come more in line instead of waiting a 5-year period, which is really smart. We haven't done that a whole lot. We've always waited the 5 years, mostly because of resources, I think. It's a resourcing issue within the office. And but some of the towns like Merrimack that used Gary Robert, I think it is, or whoever, his firm, to update properties. They would grab like condos. They would take all the condo units and get those lined up in less than 5 years, because there were disparities happening there and they just wanted to fix them. So I like that. It's great to do. But if we're going to do this every 2 years, we're going to catch stuff now.
Yeah.
And we're going to be on it. So, yeah. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is comments by members of the board. Anybody have anything to
Nothing to
add?
say. I have nothing to say.
Jim?
No, not for me.
Okay, now we'll have to go into non-public. Can I get a motion to go into non-public for 2 reasons? First, to discuss matters which, if discussed in public, would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of this board, unless such person requests an open meeting. This exemption shall extend to include any application for assistance or tax abatement or waiver of a fee, fine, or other levy if based on inability to pay or poverty of the applicant pursuant to RSA 91-A:3, Roman numeral 2, parenthetical C. Second, under 91-A:3, Roman numeral 2, parenthetical L, for the consideration of legal advice provided by legal counsel, either in writing or orally, to one or more members of the public body, even where legal counsel is not present.
So moved.
Second.
I have to do this by roll call. Jay Mancara.
Aye.
Charles Dobbins.
Aye.
Robert Early, aye. We're going to non-public at 9:35.